North Carolina has been working on workforce strategies for some time now. What we know is across the country is that it's low wages, hard work, people feel undervalued, there's limited benefits for child care providers. And so this has been on the top of our mind for a while. We've done many initiatives. Several years ago, we had the opportunity to create a salary scale, a model salary scale for North Carolina. We have updated that, and we are using that as a component in our stabilization grants. There's two components to our stabilization grant. One is the fixed cost and families grant, which is really around just stabilizing our centers, being able to pay for any fixed expenses that they had, or any type of things that they could do to help families. So we have some that are given tuition breaks to our families during this time and so forth. All of that is coming out of their stabilization fixed cost grant. But when we built our model, we also added a compensation support part of our stabilization grant. And that is an opt-in category. So everyone that applies and that is eligible receives the fixed cost and families grant, but they have to opt in for the compensation support. There's two options when they opt in. One is option one, which is they can pay out bonuses to their workforce. And if they do, they have to tell us how they have created their bonus plan. We encourage them to base that on education and longevity or experience. But it was really up to the individual providers how they gave out those bonuses, but they did have to create a plan. And option two, and the one that we encouraged, because our formula was designed that they received more money, there was more incentive to choose option two, and that was to increase base pay and or benefits. And I'm happy to report that in the first 2 quarters, 92% of our facilities have opted in for the workforce supports. Only 8% didn't decide to support their staff. The ones that didn't, there were reasons. They were either religious sponsored centers that cannot receive federal dollars, or they were a hospital conglomerate that would have to give everybody in their corporation a raise, and they weren't able to do that just for the child care facilities. So there tended to be issues or reasons why they were not opting in. We're pairing all of this with apprenticeships through the Department of Labor and our community college. We're doing pre-apprenticeships in our high school programs. We've got many of our high schools that are beginning to offer this. And so what that does is that brings people having coursework already done and completed when they graduate high school. We're using some of our dollars to bring them in through a recruitment bonus. They have a job waiting, they have the education, and that helps our child care facilities to be able to hire, or we hope it will help our child care facilities to be able to hire higher educated, ready to work teachers, and there's dollars to help cover those costs. So we're excited about the apprenticeship model, both in the high schools and outside of high schools for adult learners. And then we're also looking at other strategies like our salary supplements, our wages model, our awards, which are for infants and toddlers. And we're looking at how we can utilize those salary supplements to maintain the raises that we're seeing that are happening across the state with our stabilization grants. We're looking at a new alternative rate methodology through our PDG grant for our subsidized childcare. And when that happens, we hope that that will come up and be more a payment for cost of care, which will bring more money into our childcare facilities to be able to maintain the salaries that we need to be paying for our teachers. I mentioned to you that we had already developed a model salary scale. We use that as a resource for our compensation support grant within the stabilization grant. Every one of our facilities had to tell us and had to create a salary scale in order to receive these compensation supports, they had to create a salary model scale so that they knew how to pay their teachers and that there would be an increase. So lots of different strategies that we're pulling together. Not one of them is going to be able to do it alone, but together with all of those pieces, we do think we can make a difference in the workforce crisis in North Carolina. We know for a fact that many of them have been able to provide health insurance. Many of them are giving a certain amount, like a stipend, to go toward insurance. Some of our facilities were paying maybe, I don't know, $100, for example, and they've been able to double that or give them 3 times that amount. A lot of them are offering sort of like a network of supports, and they can choose what they want because many of our teachers are on their insurance of the spouse or something of that nature. So they've given them a choice. We've seen some that have actually engaged in a program or gotten their own health insurance, and they're paying the premiums. Some of them are just going back and paying the premiums of some of our teachers that have qualified for the Obamacare, the health insurance options there. We did hear one most recently that as a result of the stabilization grants, they no longer are eligible for the health insurance that they were getting free, and they were going to have to go back and repay that. So, it's sort of a balancing act of how do we provide these benefits, but also not take people off of some of the help that they're receiving. Let me just make a comment toward that. We have in North Carolina given temporary relief. We do not count the raises from the stabilization grants as part of permanent income increases for our subsidized childcare program. So if some of our teachers are receiving subsidized childcare, they are not going to be terminated from that program as a result of the raises they get on stabilization grants. So we've been able to do that because we control subsidy, but some of the other federal programs like WIC and a SNAP and things like that, we're not able to do that for. But we have seen that as far as health insurance. We've also seen that they've offered other types of things. One of the other big ones that we've seen, especially among family childcare providers, is we have seen them do retirement. They've allowed folks to set up IRAs or 401ks, and they're paying a component, a portion of that toward retirement. We've also seen them just doing things like sick leave, giving them days or personal days that they can go and making sure they pay the teachers. But we have seen some invest in health insurance. I think I was surprised. Our workforce study shows that about 25% provide health insurance in North Carolina prior to the pandemic. But we've seen a lot of people, but mainly in the form so far from what we've seen is to give them some type of stipend to pay toward what that premium would be.